Donald Trump is always putting on a show. The problem, he doesn't know his lines, he misses his cues, and the performance always falls apart. That's exactly what we're seeing in his reaction to the death of Charlie Kirk. Trump is pretending to care, but it's clear he's only looking for political advantage, and in the process, he's been caught lying to spin the story his way and caught revealing just how little he actually cares with what he said recently. Comments that shocked people everywhere. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, it really helps support our work. Now, before we show you the Trump clip that exposes his real feelings, I want to start with someone who truly does care and gave the perfect response to what we're witnessing right now. Representative Jasmine Crockett.
The first people that I thought about after I saw what happened with Charlie Kirk. I don't want that to happen to anybody. I don't think anybody should be killed because of their opinion or attacked because of their opinion. And you know what happens over there definitely will happen on this side.
Yeah.
And that definitely makes somebody like you a target.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many people that immediately reached out from all over and was like, what is going on with your security? I had to make sure that I called my mom because I knew that my mom would just want to hear my voice. It really shouldn't be that way. And we now are engaging in conversations again about the safety or lack thereof for elected officials that are in Congress. I mean, I have to raise money to keep myself safe because they will not pay to take care of us, even though the other two branches of government, they pay for their protection. So, you know, hopefully we can engage in some real conversations around what it looks like to get us some real safety. But also we need to engage in like what really does cross the line. We do have free speech in this country, but are you free to say just any and everything? There are limits to all of our constitutional protections, as well as like what kind of standard are we going to hold ourselves to when you are sitting, say, in the Oval Office or, you know, in the House. I hate that some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle immediately came out and they were like, oh, you know, this is on the Democrats. Like, we don't even know who did what. Obviously, the first thing that, you know, anybody would say, and you didn't have any Democrat that went out there and said otherwise, is like, we're denouncing political violence. But that doesn't mean that that's what it was. The fact that this can't be personal is wild, right? Like the fact that they are presuming that this is somebody that came from our side of the aisle. We know that in
that's
the two,
dangerous. That's very dangerous.
It is dangerous. It is dangerous. And even still, even if it came from our side of the aisle, let's assume the worst. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about what quote unquote radicalized him, right? Like we've seen writings and manifestos, and we've seen where it looks like the two people that went after the president before he was the president had ties to the Republican Party. We know that there were members of Congress that left the House last session because they received threats, not from liberals, they received threats from MAGA because literally they would not vote for the MAGA candidate to become Speaker of the House. We've got to talk about like what it means when you're running for president or you're running for one of these higher offices and you go out there and you talk about beating people up. You go out there and you say things like, I could shoot somebody in the middle of the street in New York and I could still win. That is next level. Me disagreeing with you, me calling you, you know, I want to be Hitler. All those things are like not necessarily saying go out and hurt somebody. But when you're literally telling people at rallies, yeah, beat them up and that kind of stuff, like you are promoting like a culture of violence. So we need to talk about like what it looks like when you don't promote a culture of violence.
Do you think Jasmine Crockett doesn't care about political violence? Of course she does. She lives with it every single day. The right constantly targets her. And not just because she's outspoken, but because she's a woman of color. She knows exactly what it's like to be in the crosshairs of that hate, and she has every reason to want the temperature lowered in this country. The idea that she's the one raising tensions is absurd. Her call-outs of Donald Trump are sharp, accurate, and yes, emotional. Because why wouldn't they be? This is a man who has shown again and again that he wants to strip people of their humanity. Meanwhile, figures like Nancy Mace rush to cameras for attention. At first, she leaned on hateful stereotypes, trying to link the shooter to a marginalized group. But when the truth came out, that it was a young white man Suddenly her tone flipped and she said, Jesus would have wanted us to pray for him. A complete switch. Because the reality is, they don't care. They never have. And Donald Trump, he's made that clearer than anyone, especially with what he said when asked how he was holding up after Charlie Kirk's death.
How are you holding up over the last 3.5 days?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty. It'll be an absolutely magnificent structure. And I just see all the trucks. We just started, so it'll get done very nicely, and it'll be one of the best anywhere in the world, actually.
Thank you so much. Your message.
Donald Trump says, I'm doing great. We've got the ballroom coming in. Did you guys hear about the ballroom? That's where his head is. Not on Charlie Kirk, not on grief, not on sympathy, but on bragging about architecture for his next gaudy project. Do you think he even paused to reflect on the man he called his friend? Of course not. And let's be real. When Trump has shown genuine sorrow in the past, it wasn't for people like Charlie Kirk. It was for Jeffrey Epstein, his buddy in crime. That tells you everything. Now, if you're Charlie Kirk's wife, the person Trump is pretending to offer sympathy to, how do you feel knowing that the so-called condolences were immediately undercut by ballroom talk? It's fake, and it's hollow. And here's the truth. We've been told to mourn Charlie Kirk, to honor his role in free speech. But Charlie never defended actual free speech, not when critics of U.S.-funded atrocities were silenced, jailed, or disappeared. His free speech was berating college kids for profit. His politics were attacking black professionals, especially black women, saying they didn't deserve to work. That's his legacy. So no, I won't eulogize him. I won't pretend. Because even Donald Trump, his closest political ally, didn't care enough to show real emotion before pivoting straight back to, we love the ballroom. And just look at how Fox hosts covered for him after that.
He was very hurt when he saw this, but I mean, everybody was. Oh, when I heard it, I was in the midst of, building for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects and with design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in, they said, Charlie Kirk is dead. I didn't know what they meant. I said, what do you mean dead? Charlie Kirk was shot. And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific, And I said, dead? You guys.
Even Fox hosts looked uncomfortable. Trump's rambling about a ballroom while pretending to mourn. It shows he's so self-obsessed, he can't even milk tragedy the way he usually does. And then they turn around and demand we apologize. Apologize for what? You and I didn't do this. In fact, we work, we organize, we fight for policies that actually reduce gun violence. That is the apology, lived every day. These demands for condemnation aren't about healing. They're blockades, obstacles thrown up by the gun lobby and its puppets like Charlie Kirk to derail any real conversation about change. Republicans don't fear mass shootings. They fear upsetting billionaires and losing their NRA checks. And of course, they always pair that with bigotry, targeting minorities, scapegoating trans people, weaponizing hate. Jasmine Crockett called it out perfectly at the start, and she's exactly right.
I move to strike the last words.
Gentlelady is recognized.
And so a couple of things. My not friend from Texas specifically cut me off by the time that I wanted to indicate to him a couple of things. One thing y'all have not said thus far as I can tell, is y'all may have amnesia about this mandate. Y'all kept talking about how President Trump was reelected and it was a mandate. And y'all aren't talking about the campaign promises. The campaign promise that he made. You see, when we had the Democrats out there, we weren't promising anything about the Epstein files. For all I know, our DOJ was invested in making sure that they could continue to reveal other people that should be held liable. Instead, it was your side that made this a campaign promise. So to now say that we are playing political games when we know that he actually ran on this is a farce. That's number one. Number two, everyone on this committee and everyone in Congress should have an issue with the fact that right now we know that Ghislaine Maxwell has not only been transferred out of her housing in Florida down to somewhere that looks probably a little bit more like Mar-a-Lago in Texas, but now there are conversations about pardoning her. So I think that the American people should have full transparency about what took place when you're talking about someone who went in front of a grand jury and was found to have enough information to go forward and indict her, and then she was convicted, and then she was given 20 years, yet the president is in talks about potentially letting a convicted sex offender out. That's number two.
I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it. I'm fed up. This show is going to have a tone, and that tone is honesty with a little fire. I'm not here to sugarcoat for the right or for anyone else. This is progressive commentary. And yeah, that means I care about kids not going hungry. I care about justice, and I care about truth. If that offends people, too bad. I won't be silent. I won't stop talking about the Epstein files, and I won't stop calling out the rot in this administration. If you want to support that work, hit subscribe, drop a like, and if you stuck around to the end, leave a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.